We finally got it. I don't know why it's that dark. I'm sorry. I hope you can still read the slides. So I'm very excited to be here today behind this huge, tall podium that was not designed for short people to talk to you all about something that I spend a lot of time thinking about every day. So quickly, for those of you, can you see the screen? Yeah? No? Okay. Well, I don't know what to do about that. But so quickly, for those of you who might not be familiar with Vox Media or need a quick refresher, we are a company that builds smart brands for a new generation. So that's a new generation of audience, a new generation of journalist, and also a new generation of advertiser. So to walk you through some of our brands, we have The Verge, which is a brand that's focused on how technology is changing culture. Vox.com, probably the one you're most familiar with, which explains the news. It makes complex topics really easy to understand. SB Nation is actually the fastest growing digital sports media brand in the world. We have more than 300 communities around the globe, and it's entirely fueled by the fans who love sports, who love teams, and want to rally behind them. Eater is the go-to resource right now, primarily based out of the United States for food, drink, and people who are obsessed with restaurants. And Polygon is a brand all about video games. We write about the artists who make them and the fans who love to play them. And Racked is for people who are obsessed with style and shopping, and it's a brand that's evolving to be primarily social-based. Curbed, a brand about all aspects of home, so everything from DIY, interiors, to the real estate life cycle. And our newest brand that we just acquired last year is Recode. Kara Swisher, Peter Kafka, these are some of the best journalists in their industry covering the intersection of tech and business. And their business is primarily fueled by a really strong and robust podcast and conference franchise. So Vox Creative is our in-house agency that I'll speak to a little bit while we're here. They are essentially their own editorial brand, but they're putting out branded content on behalf of advertisers. And all of these brands are doing it using our in-house platform, Chorus, which is a software that we've built from the ground up to do not just content management, but everything from deep data and insights to branded content distribution, to cross-platform publishing, and Concert, which is our ad tech. We're an ad tech business as well. So we have a system for creating our proprietary high-impact premium ads that are not just distributed on our own websites, but also distributed across many partners in the space. So now that you're up to speed of all of that stuff, what I work on is the Storytelling Studio, which is a fairly new group of journalists, data journalists, engineers, and designers. We're working on the most important stories at Vox Media. We collaborate with all of those brands to work on the biggest stories that we have that touch all of these different platforms. A recent thing we just published last week, this dashboard, it's called the Trump tax. It's a daily number that shows how many points Trump is costing the Republican Party in the US, the Republican Party that should have been winning this election and now is not, so you can Google that and check it out. I also run our brand development team, which is a team of designers primarily. They're working on all of the visual identities across all of these different brands. So what I'm here to talk about sounds like a lot of buzzwords, building brands, not websites. What do I mean by that? If we're going to be dramatic, and don't tweet this out of context, but I'm really saying that websites are dead, or at least that's how we need to be thinking about how we position ourselves in the world. So we've been talking for a really long time about mobile first, mobile. I think Brian Boyer was on the stage last year or 2 years ago saying, like, if it doesn't work on mobile, it doesn't work. And he was forecasting ahead to a time when mobile would be our primary mode of consumption, and we've hit that tipping point. Specifically for digital media time in the United States, which is sort of like a trend setter of sorts for the rest of the world, 65% of digital media time is being consumed on smartphones and on tablets. And 88% of that is happening through mobile apps. So we talked a lot in the past about mobile first, and now we're actually sort of beyond that. People aren't opening up their browsers and looking at our content, reading our journalism, watching our video on a mobile.com version of your site. they're really starting to consume that in places that are not the web. So if you break down that 88%, what we're looking at in the US at least, for 2016 so far, the top 3 most used apps, Facebook, YouTube, and Messenger. And then there are a bunch of other apps that are a part of that top 25. I'm going to break down for you per app how people are actually touching your brand. So Instant Articles, it's Facebook's new own hosted version, not a browser-based version of your articles. If people are visiting you in Facebook, which many of them are, they're not going to be hitting your website. YouTube, one of the top 3 apps here, obviously video player based, not really linking people back very often to your website. That's not your primary platform. Messaging, people are texting each other in Messenger. Maybe they'll open up an instant article. Again, not your website. You see the trend here. Google AMP is now hosting and caching separate lightweight versions of our articles. Again, people land via search or via Google Now on an Android phone or via Google News. They're hitting a separate cached version of your website, not your actual website. Same thing, Snapchat. I mean, I don't need to keep repeating this. You can see the trend here for all of these top apps where people are spending 88% of their mobile time. They're not coming back to your website. They're interacting with your brands in different ways. Some of them are a replica of an article that's hosted in a new way. Some of them are new types of media. But the trend that we're seeing is that our websites matter less and less. So we're now beyond mobile first, and we're really thinking about how do we create transportable brands that are not just websites. Recode, as I mentioned before, some of their best journalism that they might do in an entire year is on a stage similar to this one, interviewing someone like Elon Musk. We're also thinking about these in real life events as a type of platform where a community comes together in a physical space. Curbed is now launching a TV show. It's going to be on the FYI network in the United States. It's about prefab homes. That's something we had never anticipated when we first launched that website. Now Vox.com is going big into podcasting. Ezra goes really deep on policy through audio with conversations. Again, like not a website. So what I'm saying here is that a website is only one piece of the equation and an increasingly smaller piece of the equation of what makes your brand and how you're established in the world as a news organization that spreads information to communities. So how this has panned out for Vox Media. If you were to come to a conference like this, I'm sure Trey or Melissa Bell, for any of you who have been to one of these conferences before and saw that on the stage, when they would come up here, they would say, we're Vox Media, we're a brand that we focus on building lifestyle websites that connects passionate audiences. And now when we go talk to advertisers or we talk within our own company with our own employees, we say we build brands people love. And that's not just a tagline, that's not just some cute words that we throw out to sound cool, like it's fundamentally changed the way that we approach everything that we do within our company. So I'm going to talk you through 4 things that we've shifted, and maybe you can take something from that and translate it back to your own news organizations to start thinking a little bit more multi-platform. So the first thing, which may not seem that tech forward, but gets back to being really sure about what you do. It's refining your own mission. As we start to evaluate all of these different platforms and try to figure out where we should be and why we should be there, the thing that we have to understand is what we're trying to do, the stories we're trying to tell. A case study here I'm going to use is Vox.com because I think it has the clearest mission out of all of our brands. As we continue to evolve and to change and to maybe chase Chartbeat analytics or whatever analytics we're looking for, it can be very easy to stray away from your mission. But Vox.com has done a good job of not just chasing numbers and really striving to explain the news. Because we've gone down to the heart of it, we've tried to refine that mission to its core. It's made it very easy for us to expand to a lot of different platforms. So when we were approached by Snapchat to have a Discover channel, which we did a little bit last year and into this year. It's no longer a Snapchat channel, but we didn't have to think about like, what is the angle that we take here? Like, what are the topics that we might cover? We didn't have to figure that out. All we had to think about was how we take that mission and we translate it to a new format. We figure out an approach more so than an angle to take. Same thing happened when we decided we wanted to go into podcasting. We knew we are a brand that explains the news. It makes it very easy for us to figure out how to translate that to a more conversational-based audio experience. Same thing when we were launching newsletters. We don't just, I was going to say not a great word, we don't just churn out daily digests via email. We translate that to a curated format where you don't even have to go visit a website to make sense of this. You can open it up on your phone and you've had a full picture of the day's stories just in your inbox. And for the first time ever, Vox.com is doing something different. We're doing an actual in real life conference in DC in September where it's all about explaining the future of leading industries. So that gets us to my second point, which is designing off platform first. So design is a big part of Vox Media's culture. And the way that we used to do this, if we flash back to Eater in 2014, when we acquired Eater and relaunched them on Chorus, we went through a design exercise. And we would do this really with like any major project we wanted to publish. We were thinking about how does this look and work on our website? What are the colors that we want to use, the fonts, what's the hierarchy? We were thinking a lot about the navigation and building really solution design from the ground up. We would rethink an article page from the ground up. We would rethink a homepage. We would reinvent the wheel every time. But this year when we launched Curbed, it marked the start of doing something completely different for us. As we went through that creative process of trying to figure out a design and doing mood boarding and working with the editors to do approvals, we started with all of the end touch points that we would have. We didn't even look at a website. We didn't even design the website until the very last few weeks of that project. Instead, we were focused on what do the title cards look like on video. If somebody stumbled upon this in their Twitter stream, what would they see? What would Curb's brand be? If we were to ever spin up a Snapchat channel, would we have the right design language that can carry through to that platform? If somebody was looking for home inspiration and they came to a Pinterest board, what would they see? How would that work alongside photos and other things that are repinned? Does it still feel cohesive? For other platforms like Apple News, where we actually can't control as many of the assets as we can on our own home-operated sites, what are the things we can use to translate our brand to places where we have less control, or where we might only have a few pixels in a square and a few words to convey the purpose of our brand, like a podcast landing page. And we did look at the website, only mobile. We didn't even think about desktop web. But that was just one small piece of it. And then when we designed Recode this year, we had to take it a step farther. All of the design exploration was focused on off-platform. We thought about Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, but we had to think about a physical space because some of their best journalism throughout the year happens at all of these different conferences, the biggest one being their Code conference. So in addition to Twitter avatars and mastheads on a website, we had to think about what is the wayfinding mechanism? How do people know how to move around a conference in a way that speaks to the purpose of the brand? It was the first time our product designers who haven't thought about print since maybe like art school or design school were thinking about how do we create a brand that people can drink out of or wear on their shoulder? It was a whole different series of design exploration for them. And our brand, it was projected 20 feet high behind some of the biggest names in tech and business. Bill Gates was there. Elon Musk was there. So we really backed into the web design. We started with all of the other touch points with our audience and sort of worked into that. But you can't really do that unless you have a platform that's built to scale. You can't think about your website last unless your platforms empower you to do that. So we have a few things baked into Chorus, into our publishing platform that allow us to think multi-platform. First of all, we re-architected our entire platform this year so that, as I mentioned before, we would do solution design from the ground up every single time we launched a new brand. Now we literally just click a button and we could launch a new site if we wanted to. And that's what lets us focus on our mission, on our design systems. We don't have to think about the website because we have strong tools already built for that. The other thing we have is really sophisticated data tools. We used to just think about page views on our own websites, and now we recognize that analytics from other platforms are just as important, if not more important. So we think about total content views across the board, and all of our homegrown analytics dashboards that we use to track how content is doing. It looks at the holistic picture of how our content is performing everywhere, not just on our websites, because as you know, websites are only one small piece of it. Our publishing tools also empower us to send our content basically anywhere that we want. So we focus on the mobile and tablet preview pages as our primary preview place when you're looking at an article. So if you want to see what it does look like on our website, you're seeing it in the context that most people are going to see it in. But we also have smart tools that allow you to craft a custom content experience based on the different platforms that you want to hit. So if you want something custom for Facebook, or a different language, or a different image for Twitter, we have ways of doing that. And obviously hitting publish sends a different version of our content to many different platforms in all of their native states. And that's not just true of our text-based publishing. We also think about this a lot when it comes to video. You know, when you hit publish on a video, it doesn't just send it to our website, it publishes it to YouTube or whatever other players we want. And our advertising tools are now evolving to do much of the same thing. So ensuring that you can preview an ad or a native content unit like this one across all breakpoints and across any platform that you might want to hit. And now what we're starting to think about, which we haven't figured out yet, maybe next year I'll be here talking to you about this, is how do you create a content management system that allows you to do something that's not just headline, body copy, image. How do you start to think about creating maybe a decision tree based interface where you might input a different route for a user to interact with your content, to have a back and forth conversation with you. If a good thought exercise for you all and for us is if we wanted to start powering the Amazon Echo today, where somebody asks, like, Echo, give me Recode headlines, and the Echo says, okay, Mark Zuckerberg did this today, and then the user can ask for more. Like, do we have a system that's set up to do that? Not today, but that's what we're working toward. But all of this, you can have as much technology, as many design systems, as strong of a mission as you want, but sort of getting back to Erica's point, it's also about the people. We ask journalists to do a lot already today, and thinking about all of those platforms is a ton of stuff to also cram into the everyday just reporting. So our teams, all of them are thinking about this. We're trying to empower them with the data they need to understand how audiences behave on different platforms so that we can be smart about the platforms we hit. It's not about being everywhere. It's about being in the places that make sense. But specifically, we've changed up 2 teams, or actually really added one of these new teams, to focus specifically on being multi-platform. So a new role that we have is a director of partner development, a wonderful man named Corey Sika. And his focus is on managing relationships, because so much of our business now relies on being on all of these different platforms. We have to be a good partner. That's a core part of now our business model, is being good partners to work with, managing relationships with Amazon, with Facebook, with Google, and making sure they understand what we're trying to do so that we can influence the way that they think about this. Vox Media is in a really interesting position because we are at the heart of both product and journalism. So we are uniquely positioned to be strong influencers for the rest of the industry, which is why it's so important you all talk to me, because we're having conversations with these people and we can represent the needs of everyone here. Our director of partner development also prioritizes all of these opportunities. So he's helping us figure out what is the revenue potential, what is the audience growth. He's evaluating these partners continually for what their user base is and whether that's a strong enough user base to justify our time and energy, what the total revenue opportunity might be. And we tend to follow the idea that wherever the audience is, the revenue will follow. And also our ability to innovate. Are we able to do something different that pushes our journalism, pushes our stories in a way that's going to get audience and advertiser attention? If yes to all 3, then we figure out within a list of all of the opportunities available how we need to reshuffle. The other team is our Vox Media storytelling studio. It's a team I spend a lot of time with day to day, and it's project manager. We have data journalists, visual editor, product designers, and engineers. And we're primarily focused on telling stories at the intersection of tech, design, and journalism. The specific focus on doing multi-platform storytelling and figuring out this emerging technology. So this team is evolved out of another team that was our multimedia storytelling team. And the way that we used to approach projects on that team last year would be to publish a website. So we worked with Eater, our restaurant site, to put together, we scraped all of the health scores for all of New York restaurants. We made this dashboard. It's really great. You could go to it, you could search, you could see all the violations going back for as many years as we had data, to understand, you know, are there rats in that McDonald's in Times Square? Like, is it safe to go there? Like, what should I know about eating at these places? And the expectation we had for the user was that they would, I don't know, bookmark the site, come back to the site, think about the site. We have been thinking about maybe rebuilding this project because nobody goes to that website. Nobody, except for a few of us who are using it every day at work when we're going out to lunch. But if we were to reimagine this, we would not be thinking of it as a website. If we were to rebuild this today, which we certainly might do, it would probably be in some kind of messaging or text-based interface where you can actually engage with maybe an Eater bot and say, give me the health score for Times Square McDonald's, and maybe it'll send you a snapshot, it'll send you a text, and you can ask for more, or you can ask for a different restaurant or whatever. But we would totally do this in a different way that actually considers the audience context, where they are, the platforms they're using, and delivers the journalism to them in a way that makes sense. Another example of some multi-platform storytelling that we've done recently, we just published a few weeks ago this essay that Vox.com did. They had an interview with Hillary Clinton, and we published out a version for our own platform, a version for Facebook Instant Articles, a separate version for Google AMP, not through our core systems in an automated templated way, but we actually built out versions that were slightly different per platform depending on the audience there. Also worked with that team to put together an email newsletter that was a little bit more of the behind the scenes. Ezra did a podcast take on it, and then we published the full interview to YouTube and shorter clips to Facebook because we know the audiences there are different. On Facebook, people want to see quick snippet. They're going to watch like 30 seconds of it. You have to get them really early, really fast. YouTube, we know people take the time to sit down and watch something in full. So we published in different ways for the different audiences. And the tools that we use to do this are the same tools that our Vox Creative Studio is using to tell stories on behalf of our advertisers. We try to be at the forefront of great multimedia storytelling and thinking about a multi-platform environment. And because we do that really well on our editorial side and on the journalistic side, that's why brands trust us to do this for them. And this is actually one of the biggest, most fastest growing parts of our business on the revenue side is brands coming to us to tell really great stories on their behalf using our tools. So final thoughts. I know it's hard to translate some of this because we are a venture-backed company that's digital only and we have no ties to legacy. And it can be very hard to try to think about how you might do this in a place where you still have to publish a print newspaper every day. But I'll just leave you with some closing thoughts that maybe you can figure out how to translate in some ways. So thriving in change, this is something that we think about a lot. We don't want to be this big battleship that takes 4 years to turn around if we want to change direction. We try to be as nimble as we can. We like to think of ourselves as a little speedboat, and we can change direction as opportunities come at any time. And I push you all to think of yourselves in that way and try to remove the barriers that keep you from being able to pivot quickly. Publish in many places, even if you're just doing it in a custom way at first or experimentally, just to measure and understand what your audiences want on different platforms and what parts of that you should actually bake in and institutionalize. Understanding and prioritizing. There are a lot of platforms out there, and you will go crazy if you try to do everything on all of them all the time. So learn about your audiences, learn about the capabilities of your platforms, and only hit the ones that are most important to you. Have a flexible newsroom culture. So we have to create space for our editors to think about this stuff, to try new things, to experiment. If we were asking them to try to figure this out on the side as a side project, outside of their daily responsibilities, we would never figure it out. So have a culture that empowers your editors to have the space to think about this. Think about mobile only now. We're beyond mobile first. Mobile only is where it's at, and really off-platform first is how you should start to shift your thinking. And if you want to follow along, we are very transparent and open about everything that we're learning about all of this and the tools we're building to empower it. So you can follow both Vox Product for the product side, the CMS side, and Vox Storytelling, which is our group of data journalists and designers and editors who are figuring this out specifically on the journalism side per story. So thank you.